2 years after the birth of Godzilla Monster Universe version. Japan is the home of the giant monster. Deciding to introduce the world to Shin Godzilla movie quickly became the most successful works of this market in 2006. Besides the compliments from the mass audience both at home and abroad, it was also nominated for 11 categories at the Japan Film Academy Awards, the largest number of the year, and then brought back to winning in 7 categories. More specifically, the current Prime Minister personally of Japan, Mr. Shinzo Abe, also praised the work. Specifically, the way the film depicts the national army. So what brought this success to Shin Godzilla? The answer lies in the real monster. The movie wants to expose and criticize. Ironically, it's not really here. This monster actually lives underground in the movie. It's hiding in this scene. And this scene. In today's video, let's find the answer to the question: the scariest monster. What actually brought success to Shin Godzilla? As usual, if you have not seen the movie, then this is the perfect time to turn this video off and watch the movie now. Even if you are a fan of the Godzilla series in particular, or a fan of monster movies in general, then I am sure that Shin Godzilla will also meet your expectations, with intelligence, creativity and uniqueness. If you've seen the movie before, or if you don't care about spoilers of the movie, I will not waste any more time. Let's go. First, talk about Godzilla. After a series of earthquakes in the bay, Godzilla begins to advance from the ocean into Tokyo, completely destroy the river system it passes through. The thing worth mentioning here is, Godzilla does not have a familiar consistent image from beginning to end of the movie, which we often see in the past. On the contrary, it has the evolution over time. The monster in Shin Godzilla. First appearance in a crawling position with gills bleeding with every step. For those brave audience, this pose is not only not very scary, but also brings a sense of pity. This is a fledgling creature that has not yet mastered its movements, and it hasn't determined the target of its appearance in the movie yet. Godzilla has a total of 5 different evolutionary times. Through research data left behind by a deceased doctor, we get to know more about the origins of this monster, inheriting metaphor for the dangers of nuclear energy as the previous films. Before the monster's mutation in the movie, coming from the US's indiscriminate handling of radioactive waste 60 years ago. Coincidentally, approximately 60 years ago, period, also occurred horrifying events. It has to do with nuclear in Japan. That's when a series of tests of US nuclear bombs at Bikini Islands made 23 sailors of the 5th Lucky Dragon fishing boat radioactive, and a person who died. Throughout Shin Godzilla, it is easy to see that the obsession of nuclear disaster has not yet let go of Japan. In addition, this obsession also appears when the United Nations gave an ultimatum to the Japanese side, forcing this country's army to take down Godzilla in 2 short days. If not, they will allow the United States to drop a 3rd atomic bomb on Japan to kill it. From here, it can be completely confirmed. Godzilla represents a nuclear disaster. But writer and director Hideaki Anno also said, Godzilla represents more than that, because it is a direct consequence of human negligence. So Godzilla is also considered as Mother Nature's way of threatening us. This punishment appeared in the form of a giant monster with wide eyes, never closed, never shown hesitation, hatred or pain. It's a stark contrast to a glaring Godzilla from the West. Godzilla in her Shin features like disaster, more like an earthquake, tsunami or a thunderstorm. Because when these things come, they sweep away. It's not meant to serve any specific purpose. It's slaughtered without a second thought. And they can't be stopped by humans either. For those who regularly follow the news, Godzilla's appearance echoes the memory of a double disaster. Occurs on March 11, 2011 in Tohoku. It has claimed the lives of nearly 20,000 people. This event also led to a serious nuclear disaster, second largest in world history at Fukushima 1 nuclear power plant, forcing more than 160,000 people to evacuate to safety. Here comes the parallels between Shin Godzilla and the double disaster in Tohoku. Not only does it stop at natural disasters, it also includes Japan's obsession with nuclear power. However, as mentioned above, Godzilla is still not the scariest monster that the movie Shin Godzilla wants to talk about. It is a bureaucratic government with a cumbersome and inefficient way of working, and the film has been constantly criticizing throughout its duration. The first is the process of receiving and processing information, and making decisions is extremely slow. Although it is a monster movie, but 3-part 4 duration of Shin Godzilla film is used for the dialogue scenes. Since the first incident happened, The audience was immediately pushed from one crowded meeting to another crowded meeting, with a full range of employees from many different departments and ranks. The above-mentioned continuous meetings. It's worth mentioning that there are a lot of members appearing redundantly, and there is no specific role. Here, they discuss with each other about everything from inference unfounded, about the source of the incident and guessing the public's reaction, controversy about the extent of information they can disclose. Of course, they also discuss the most appropriate countermeasures. This is really impossible if they want to quickly make a unified decision to deal with the problem immediately. For me, the pinnacle of ironical. That's when the conversation between the troops on the front and the incumbent prime minister took place. Agree that it is necessary to follow the chain of command. But in the midst of an emergency, the chain of command and a decision as simple as whether to declare war or not had to go through 5 or 6 different people. Whether it is really necessary and effective? Even more ridiculous. It is in this scene that the Chief of Staff of the Ministry of Defense and the Minister of Defense. They sat very close to the Prime Minister, but they still let this happen.
今より武器の無制限使用
The Chief of Staff requested permission to use the missile. I'm allowed to use all the necessary weapons. Slowness and rigidity in receiving and processing information by authorities. One of the biggest agent. Help the monster destroy the city. Take a look at how a successor to the first Prime Minister receives the news that he has been suddenly promoted. Do you think the above mistakes will continue to be repeated by this man? And if we continue to use the double disaster of 2011 to compare, we can see. Decision to publish the truth about the Fukushima 1 radiation leak also delayed until 2 months. And then this slowness, which is actually a manifestation of a deeper problem that Shin Godzilla also mentioned. At the beginning of 2016, the president of Tokyo Electric Power Corporation apologized about his predecessor who obstructed full disclosure and covered up the seriousness of the 2011 nuclear leak. Instead of accurate information about radioactive leaks at the nuclear reactors at the Fukushima plant. During the 2 months following the earthquake and tsunami disaster, this predecessor asked to describe the problem in less severe terms as the core part have a bug. In Shin Godzilla, the first time the main character Yaguchi mentioned to the hypothesis, giant creatures are appearing outside Tokyo, he was immediately rejected by the Prime Minister. Even if this is true. After that, no matter what time he mentioned this, he was asked by his colleagues to keep quiet. At first speaking about the monster to reassure the people, the Prime Minister insists that Godzilla will be crushed by its own weight. And it certainly will not go to the ground. Of course both of these information are baseless and untrue. In the second, although there is evidence to prove, wherever Godzilla is going through, it always have the sudden increase of the level of radioactivity. These prime ministers are still deliberately giving false information. To put it bluntly, it is to avoid confusing public opinion. He chose a lie. Just like how the Tokyo Electric Power Corporation used to do it. Between the time of endangered, when the health and life of every citizen should be put first. Then between the 3 options. Conceal information, lie and tell the truth. Which option will be most effective? Where would be the answer comes from the urgency and conscience. Be the one to decide. Of course Shin Godzilla didn't name anyone. The above 2 limitations are not the problem of a certain individual or a certain group. That it comes from a system. This system is formed and operated mainly because of the way of thinking and ideology that has worked so well in the past. It used to help the country recover greatly after going through the war. The high-ranking characters appearing in the film also hardly have any ill intentions or personal gain. On the contrary, they are all doing what they think is best for the country. But the old system they use in Shin Godzilla has crystallized into a block. Its shape is now a scary monster. It's stiff, slow, and increasingly inconsistent. In the midst of a flexible and ever-changing world like today. However, humans have created the system. So people will also be the key to solving the problem. The conflict that Shin Godzilla brings about is not between humans and Godzilla. It's actually between the old and new generations. If you consider Godzilla and the old bloated bureaucracy a danger, then we can consider the young generation of civil servants as heroes. They are trying to save the country. Here we come to the Yaguchi who I talked about in the previous section. Yaguchi was the first to mention that Godzilla is a giant creature. He is also the only one who directly shows mercy. The residents of the ill-fated in the second half of the film. Yaguchi takes on the task of working with a group of quirky scientists to find a way to freeze Godzilla in time. Prevent third nuclear bomb falls to Japan. He seems to represent a generation of young leaders who have a close connection with the people. He has not been affected by the old bureaucracy. He is the embodiment of a generation, well aware of the fierceness of history, and willing to attempt non-stop so that it is never repeated. Worth noting that the regular appearance with Yaguchi is Kyoko Ann Patterson. She is a Japanese-American special envoy working for the US government. Kyoko stands out for her smart and practical personality. She provided Yaguchi and Japan with confidential information regarding Godzilla, and she was the one buying time for the team to come up with a plan to freeze the monster. It can be said that Kyoko plays a key role in Japan's victory over Godzilla at the end of the movie. Help the whole country get rid of a third nuclear bomb. Yaguchi along with her is representing a different aspect of the young generation. That is the majority of people who have studied and lived and worked abroad. In an intentional way. The first time Kyoko appeared, she seems to be cast from the stereotype of America in particular and the West in general. Together they represent two truths. Firstly, when bamboo is old, bamboo shoots grow. Second, the only way to win is to eliminate all differences, and together make a quick and thorough effort to attack all obstacles. Even if this obstacle is a natural disaster, a nuclear disaster, or even outdated ideology and rigid bureaucracy. At the end of the movie, a frozen Godzilla still stands in the heart of Tokyo. It stands there as the necessary reminder of the reasons that brought it here, and as an affirmation for inevitable change. Let a Godzilla 2 not happen. In my personal opinion, all of the above reasons have helped Shin Godzilla achieve great success, especially in the Japanese film market.